Hello and welcome to the Bloodstream Podcast, a show serving the greater bleeding disorders community, brought to you by Believe Limited and Bloodstream Media, and made possible thanks to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. I'm your patient, advocate, and host, Patrick James Lynch.
And I am your healthcare advocate, nonprofit nerd, and your other host, Amy Board. And I'm reminding you to please speak with a healthcare professional before making any treatment decisions.
On today's show, Max Feinstein, who joined us earlier this year, had an elbow surgery. We said we want to check back in. Well, little did I know what we were going to be checking in on. He has got a Hemophiliac of Love cover that you're not going to want to miss, and you're going to get to hear it on today's episode. We have got that, plus the latest gene therapy segment where we'll be discussing the pressing question surrounding gene therapy: how long does it last? Hanna will dive deep into that very question with our guest, Dr. Andrew Davidoff. We've got all that and more on today's episode. Welcome to Bloodstream.
Listeners, as always, thank you for joining us. And if you like what you hear, please subscribe to the Bloodstream Podcast wherever you get those podcasts, and follow us on social media. We can be found at Bloodstream Media.
Findable people on the internet. And I also want to remind you, dear listeners, that the Bloodstream Podcast is indeed made possible thanks to our presenting sponsor, Takeda. Yes, that's right, Takeda. Takeda has got this website, bleedingdisorders.com, where you can learn all about Takeda's resources for and commitment to the bleeding disorders community. Takeda believes in a world free of bleeds. Amy.
I do too, honestly.
You and Takeda, perfectly aligned.
Me and Takeda do. We think that.
And Amy and Takeda are dedicated more than ever in their efforts to offer a wide range of programs and support to help patients on their treatment journey, wherever on that journey they may be. That's actually true. This is the part that's just about Takeda. You can learn more by simply visiting bleedingdisorders.com. One more time, fascinating if you need it, bleedingdisorders.com.
Yep.
And again, for their founding and ongoing support of the Bloodstream Podcast, I would just like to say thanks, Takeda.
Thanks, Takeda. PJL, how you doing?
I am doing great from the wonderful state of Ohio, where the fam and I are spending a bit of time. So you've got me here. We're recording this. I'm at a cottage on a lake, which sounds romantic, and it is if you ignore, the mice and the mold and the
but
fact
that's
that you can only go number
per
2 in one of the
use.
toilets.
Yes, I mean, like if you're going to a lake, I feel like that's like per use.
Oh, it would be very disappointing if it was like 5-star hotel accommodations.
Right.
So we call it magic instead of, health threatening.
Great.
So I'm like, oh, that's the smell of magic. I thought it was the smell. Anyway.
Great. Good to
but
know.
That's where
Good
I
to
am. That's the current location. I noticed you're wearing your favorite Taylor Swift How many Taylor Swift sweatshirts do you own?
Great question. Thank you for asking. I have 2 Taylor Swift sweatshirts and many Taylor Swift t-shirts. And today I'm wearing my Fearless Taylor Swift sweatshirt because, as I told you, you asked before you started, like, is there any reason? Because I made mention of it. Like, hey, you guys, I'm wearing my Taylor Swift Fearless. That's one of her albums. It's called Fearless. Sweatshirt. And I was like, well, maybe it's a crutch today. Maybe I need to be fearless.
I think you are fearless. I get strong, fearless vibes.
You. I know, right? Especially today. Let's crush it. Let's do this.
Well, speaking of fearless, tattoos. Amy. You don't have any, do you?
I don't have any. I am that. Me and Taylor Swift, we don't have any tattoos.
Again. Okay. Is this a stance of yours? Did you ever flirt with the idea? How close have you come to the being
I've never come super close, but I've definitely thought about it, but I haven't found anything that I permanently want on my body. And I think tattoos are wonderful. I think they're gorgeous, and it's such an expression, and it's an artistic expression. I think for me, I haven't found anything that I want permanently on my body. That because for me, I'm a type of person that would have to mean something, and not that tattoos don't have to mean something. Most of them do, but I haven't found anything yet.
So to just get the McDonald's Ronald McDonald on your arm, that was never quite your vibe?
Yeah, it was just never my vibe. I just never did it. And, I was, a goody two-shoes. I was a square, in the years where you get if you're going to do tattoos, when you're a teenager and young adult, when you're in college, you're just screw it, I'm going to do it. I just never did.
It's never too late.
But you have tattoos.
Still live young.
I know.
I do.
I know.
And I'm thinking about more. And I saw somebody published, I think in the UK, some survey about tattoos and hemophilia. And then I was like, oh, I wonder, and I put something on Facebook about people's favorite tattoo, and a lot of people from the community posted with tattoos, some of which were community, something to do with the community.
Yeah.
So personally, I'm thinking about adding another, but then I was also thinking it would be kind of fun to maybe do some sort of segment where we could ask people to send us photos of their tattoo, do some big social media mashup of community tattoos. Wouldn't that be cool? I'd love to see tattoos from around the community.
I think, honestly, tattoos are fantastic, and they're gorgeous. They're a piece of art. They're really special.
They can be. We don't have to overplay it. They can be. They can also be trash. You don't have
I watched this documentary last night of course I did, about a missing woman, shocker. I love the Datelines. And one of her features, that they sent out was she had a Tasmanian devil tattoo right here.
Nice.
And I think it was holding something. It was I don't know. But anyway, it was just is that art?
Well, I noticed you brought that up after I used the word trash. I'm wondering if there's a correlation there.
I wonder.
See, now, if you had a tattoo, you'd be safer, because if you went missing, we could say Amy Board, she looks like 100%. This, but also she's got a Ronald McDonald tattoo on her right forearm.
100%. 100%. That is a reason to get. That's a reason.
I don't know if your mom is still listening, but if she is, I think she'd have my back here. We want you to be safe, Amy. We want you to be safe.
This will be a test. Okay, this will be a test in the next week or two if my mom doesn't be by the way, to see if she's still listening.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out, Mrs. Ward. All right, so we'll come back to a safety check on Amy and updates regarding tattoos, but I think more importantly, we should discuss the pressing questions around gene therapy, Amy. That's what the people are actually here for.
I do too. And Hanna, our beloved host and collaborator, also has tattoos, and she has really gorgeous tattoos.
That was a good point. Great tie-in.
Welcome back to another episode of Gene Therapy, A Whole New World. It's your girl, Hanna, and today we are diving into one of the most pressing questions surrounding gene therapy. How long does it last? Well, the New England Journal of Medicine recently published an article titled Sustained Clinical Benefits of AAV Gene Therapy in Severe Hemophilia B. And with an increasing body of long-term patient data, we're gaining exciting insights into the durability of gene therapy, especially in hemophilia. Bloomberg even followed up with a piece called Hemophilia Gene Therapy is Shown to Last for Years, featuring our guest today, Dr. Andrew Davidoff. Though before we jump in, here is a note from our sponsor. It's a Whole New World Gene Therapy segment brought to you by CSL Behring and their Hemophilia B gene therapy treatment. To learn more about gene therapy, hear patient stories, and view additional support resources, visit beyondhemb.com or download B Support wherever you get your apps for more information and to manage your treatment journey. So our guest today is Dr. Andrew Davidoff. He is the chair of surgery at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And I understand what you might be thinking. Why is a surgeon who works on cancer here to talk about hemophilia? So that's a great question. And here's the scoop. Dr. Davidoff's pioneering work in gene therapy involves using AAVs to deliver treatment for monogenic disorders like hemophilia. His expertise in gene delivery makes him a key voice in understanding where gene therapy is heading. We've heard a lot of buzz about the long-term effect of gene therapy. Now, we're finally seeing the kind of data we used to only hope for. Patients treated over a decade ago are still experiencing benefits. A 2024 study followed hemophilia B patients 13 years after a single dose of gene therapy. And the results were, they were quite remarkable. So let's hear what Dr. Davidoff has to say about the kind of long-term success we are seeing.
I think the data are very encouraging for long-term durability of efficacy of gene transfer for patients with hemophilia. We have just looked at our participants who now have been on average 13 years out from receiving the vector, and their factor VIII and factor IX expression from the gene transfer vector has been stable for upwards of 13 years. So we're very excited about that.
Wow, that is a huge achievement. 13 years of stable expression from a single treatment. Imagine the impact on a person's life if this kind of durability continues. But here's the thing. Not every patient responds to gene therapy the same way. So, I asked Dr. Davidoff about the variability. What factors shape outcomes for different people?
Not everybody responds to a dose of vector in the same way, and we are trying to understand that to prepare those patients for the different outcomes. Baseline liver disease probably bodes poorly for a better outcome from gene transfer to the liver. But other than that, it's not really so clear why some patients benefit more than others.
And here's another thing that really stood out to me. This long-term durability wasn't something researchers originally expected.
The durability was a little bit unexpected just because nobody had done it yet in humans, been able to follow them for such a long time. Certainly the preclinical studies in animals suggested that the effect should be long-lasting, but didn't know until we had human participants in our clinical trial.
So let's shift to hemophilia B versus hemophilia A. I asked Dr. Davidoff how the outcome compares between the two.
The durability seems to be better for factor IX for hemophilia B than for factor VIII in hemophilia A, perhaps for a variety of reasons, including the fact that the factor VIII protein is much bigger and more difficult to package the gene encoding its expression and a little more difficult to synthesize. But other than that, I think long-term results have been quite encouraging.
That's an important takeaway. Hemophilia B is currently showing more consistent long-term results, and the complexity of the factor VIII gene likely plays a role in that. Now here's a key issue. Gene therapy is currently a one-time shot. The body's immune system develops antibodies to the viral vector, which means redosing is extremely difficult, if not nearly impossible.
When a patient gets an AAV vector, the gene is successfully transferred, but the patient does get an antibody response and maybe even a T cell response to the vector itself that probably precludes them getting a second dose of the same vector. Now, there are differences that can be engineered into the vector that you could get potentially a similar but different in some important aspects vector later on and have successful gene transfer. But that's a little problematic in many ways because the vector is difficult to make, and to try to have a whole sort of shelf of different types of variations is going to be difficult. People are looking into this important question, whether giving perhaps immunosuppression transiently at the time of receiving vector might dampen that reaction to the vector and therefore allow for repeat dosing. But I think probably right now the answer to that question is probably not. But at least for our hemophilia B cohort of patients, it's not an issue because they are stably expressing.
So that's a big deal. For most patients, gene therapy only gets one shot to work. That's why vector design, patient selection, and delivery timing are all so very important. So how do clinicians actually know if gene therapy is still working years later? It starts with factor levels in the blood, yes, but it goes much, much deeper.
So these patients all had severe hemophilia, which by definition is essentially no circulating factor, so that any factor that they now have, which is easily measured by standard means, as long as they haven't recently given themselves recombinant protein for whatever reason. So if that has cleared, whatever is left is coming from the gene transfer vector. So that's a very easy way to generally see that it's still working. We are interested, though, in taking a deeper look at the vector, itself in the liver. And it's interesting, when we first started, the idea that doing liver biopsies in hemophilia patients with a baseline bleeding disorder was really considered outrageous, frankly.
That shift from avoiding liver biopsies to using them to deepen our understanding is a huge sign of how far the field has truly come. So let's take a step back. What makes a gene therapy actually work, not just initially, but for years? Well, it turns out it is all in the design.
But now that we and others have shown that the vector is safe and effective when it comes to bleeding and bleeding after trauma, including, surgical type procedures, that the questions that are being asked about the fate of the vector are so important that now, in fact, it's being encouraged that clinical trials include the opportunity for patients to participate in a biopsy of the liver, so that investigators can understand, is it still there? What form does it take? Is it integrating into the host genome? Are there inflammatory cells reacting to it? A variety of questions that can't just be answered by a blood test, that really need to be answered by looking at the target tissue itself. A lot of my research is cancer therapy, and I have been interested in cancer-targeted gene therapy. And so I view it, again, sort of the opposite way you phrased the question. I think what I'm learning about our experience with gene therapy for hemophilia, I hope to take some of those lessons and make a better gene therapy approach for cancer and cancer patients.
But there's still a huge hurdle ahead: the cost.
The biggest challenge right now, frankly, as you're probably aware, is the cost to the patients who are not receiving vector on trial, and it frankly has been prohibitive for the most part. It has now been approved and commercialized, yet not very many patients have gotten vector for hemophilia A or B outside of the context of a clinical trial, and that's disappointing. And I would say that's the biggest hurdle right now. We have a good product, but just getting it to the patients in need has been problematic.
That's a tough one, but I'm hopeful that the economics will eventually catch up. Dr. Davidoff, thank you so much for your insights today. This has been incredibly helpful in understanding where gene therapy stands and where it's yet to go. The future is so bright for gene therapy, and the journey we're on right now is just at the beginning. I am beyond excited to see what happens next, and I hope you are too. As always, we will keep you updated on all the latest in the world of gene therapy. It's your girl, Hannah, and thanks for tuning in. And stay curious, stay empowered, and let's keep this conversation going.
Thank you, Hanna. Thank you, Andrew Davidoff. It's time. Max. Max!
It is time for Max. You know what? That is the kind of fan appreciation that Max Feinstein deserves. So let's hear it from Max Feinstein. So
wait a
listeners,
minute.
you may recall.
Before we get into Max, I have to say our producer, Keith Corneluk, who I think loves you and I. I think he loves us. I think he loves us as friends, and he respects us as hosts. Actually said before we recorded this that he hopes that Max becomes the host of the Bloodstream podcast. He loves Max so much.
Yeah, that was said, and I don't know what that means for me, but that was said. Can't be good. How many heroes can you have on one show?
I mean, come on. I love Max. I am so excited about this. Give us the lowdown, Patrick. What do we have? What do we got?
Max had an elbow surgery at the beginning of this year, and so we had him on to talk about it, as listeners may recall. Wanted to see how he was doing some months into his rehab and PT, which he gives us those updates. That's really important. But then he also reveals to us what he's been doing in the music world, which includes an extraordinary story and cover of the song Hemophiliac of Love. Now, Max is going to play the song for us at the end of the segment, so we'll just wrap up the episode right now, Amy. August 8th is when we will be back after this episode. And who are the audience going to hear from on August 8th?
Oh, man, we've got a BDC preview with Phil Gattone. CEO Phil Gattone from NBDF is going to be with us, and he's going to give us a preview of the biggest bleeding disorder conference of our season. It's going to be great.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. That'll be August 8th with Phil. Subscribe if you haven't already. Mailbag at bloodstreammedia.com if you have anything to say. And without further ado, here he is, Max Feinstein.
Max!
All right, I'm joined by my buddy, Max Feinstein. Hello, sir. Good to see you again. How are you today, Max?
Good to be seen. I'm feeling productive right now. I'm in Nashville getting ready for the Coalition for Hemophilia B's Beats program. And I flew in a little bit ahead of time. One of the coordinators is a father of a boy with hemophilia, and he's an engineer, and we've been hitting it off over the last few years. So I got in a couple of days early, and we're finishing up a record that he and I started back in November. I had pre-surgery just this idea to get everything out of, just scrape the barrel clean of ideas, and it just in case something went wrong, or at least to give me something to work with when I was ready again. So we've been tracking.
How's your, let's start with your surgery real quick. How's your elbow doing now? How far are we? 6 months or so?
We are, as of 2 days ago, we are 5 months.
Okay, and how you tracking?
Pretty well. I have to say, the biggest, one of the things that this surgery did was provide clarity on specifically the things that bothered me most about the situation. And one of the things specifically was the way the bone wore away created a bone spur that was hooking on my ulnar nerve, and just forever. Like, that was just life, was having a bone spur agitating my funny bone nerve. And that was an immediate notice. Like, once I woke up, I was like, that's not a thing anymore. And that right there alone made it worth it. Because for my entire adult life, I've had that. That's been every conversation you've had with me. I've had just this crazy nerve stimulation, and sometimes it would get stuck in the bone spur. And this was just resting stuff. Don't get me wrong, there's still uncomfortable situations. I very much am still a hemophiliac, and this is very much still an elbow that looks more like an ice cream scoop than an elbow in x-rays. That's but the improvements exist.
That's descriptive.
It's really something to have. My surgeon gave me a gift of the 3D printed model of my elbow that he operated on before operating on me. And to have that kind of perspective on what is wrong, because hemophilia is an abstract condition to anyone who doesn't have it, and even those who do have it. Like, we know we're bleeding, we know things are not correct, but we don't exactly have the visual to go with it. So between that and the visuals from the scope itself, which I've been enjoying just because it's a picture perfect demonstration of the problem, whereas all we had before were the silhouettes of the imaging.
Wow.
You ever see that movie Fantastic Voyage?
No.
It's that trope of people shrinking down in a submarine and going inside a person to like fix something.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay.
And that's what it reminded me of. It like it looks like a very strange underwater type scene. I can send you those pictures for your personal reaction. They're not gory, but you don't have to know what you're looking at to know it shouldn't look like it.
So would you say at this point, 5 months out, are you feeling fully recovered, or are you still working your way back?
I'm still acclimating as a human being, but that's a really good question because my recovery was something I hadn't, I've never had a surgery before. I'd never really imagined what my life would be like with this relieved. So what I didn't take into effect because I was so experienced with chronic pain is that I was actually I was recovering from a literal surgery. Like they had a Dremel and a cauterizing tool in me. That's the kind of thing because of the pain that we are used to that I didn't really think about. I just thought, okay, if these are the benefits, we're cool. And then somewhere around May, there was a change. I had more energy. I have maintained that level of energy. I had at the time been testing my testosterone levels. I'm in my late 30s now. That's kind of the dip. I wanted to know where we were at, and for a little while I was on the border of the lower side of the average for men my age, which would have been meriting testosterone supplementation. But funny thing, right around that time in May, my endocrinologist thought I had started on the treatment when I hadn't even been able to produce. I had been sort of either right below it or right above it, and in order to get insurance to improve testosterone replacement therapy, you need to show 2 concurrent blood tests to show your levels consistently. And while I'd been, thumbing that line, I effectively tripled my testosterone, and we think it's because of the absence of the chronic pain itself. That the removal of that bone spur was able to potentially lower my cortisol or otherwise allow for, because I talked it over with her, and while this is, of course, strange territory for everybody, the logic being that the absence of stressors would absolutely lead to an increase in testosterone. That stressors lower testosterone, especially cortisol. And that's leading me to explore the potential benefits testosterone replacement therapy may have in the field of pain relief. Because if it can show up to the absence of cortisol, what happens if it gets a little boost to deal better with what we are already dealing with? So I've been looking at journals. I've been looking for papers. I've spoken with Hallie over at NBDF, who runs the research grant department. I'm trying to take from this experience something that may be beneficial to others. That's been kind of the where my head's been at post-op as well.
Well, that's not surprising given who you are. Well, that's incredible. I'm happy to hear about the relief you're experiencing. I'm not surprised. Well, I mean, it is surprising to hear about the testosterone increase. The potential correlation to the cortisol coming down is really interesting to think about. And my own experience of having bone spurs removed and the alleviation of chronic pain as a result and neuropathic pain as a result, I buy what you're selling, man. I hear you, and I'm just so glad you're on the other side of it. But I want to give you a chance to talk a bit about the music, because you were starting to tell us. So you started putting an album together just before the surgery?
Yes, I had gone down to Nashville. I've been building this relationship with Adam Smith for a while now. His son Arlo has hemophilia B, and he is a musician and an engineer in town. And he's like me. He's made a career out of noise, and we hit it off right away. But as the years went on, we kind of grew to appreciate each other as craftspeople, and I helped him produce a record for another blood brother, which isn't out yet, but in doing that, we got to see each other's work ethic in earnest, and I just had the thought, okay, what if I take another trip down here? I've already got another album I'm working on, which is where that song that I sent you, the Every Single Day piece, came from. It's been a blast to work with him.
So tell us, where can people find the music? Is it out now? Is it coming out? Or what's the deal?
We're still recording it.
Actively recording it. Okay. When do you anticipate it will be available?
I have no idea, but I'm hoping, the hope is always sooner than later. But right now I'm just enjoying the process again and really focusing on really just adjusting to life without pain.
I hear you. You remind me of myself a year and a half ago. It's the reason I'm having my right ankle fused, because I'm done with that pain too. And it's something to just experience it, and it's something else to hear someone else experiencing it in real time, man. I'm really happy for you. The last thing I want to ask you about, though, before we wrap up, so you did send me a song that is recorded, that is available, Hemophiliac of Love, and while that might not be a Max original, it's a song that I knew growing up as a kid, and it's the only song I ever knew that had hemophilia in the title. Tell us, how is it that you came to be doing a cover of Hemophiliac of Love?
I lost enough sleep over it, knowing it existed, and just the absurdity of what it is. For those of you who don't know, Hemophiliac of Love is a song by a band called King Missile, who are a kind of cult New York band. And I was able to get in touch with Stephen Tunney, or Dogbowl, who wrote the song, and just sort of ask where it came from, because the song itself is very much kind of like one of those Jack London wilderness books. The person's truck breaks down in the Northwest Mountains, and as this person's being eaten by wolves, he's thinking about his loved ones. Just as a process and production-minded person yourself, I'm sure you see all sorts of oddities in entertainment, and with the knowledge you have, you start to wonder what conversations, how many people signed off on this, you wonder how we got there. And I'm like, how do we get to hemophilia? Because it's such an oddity to come up in the wild. So all of that fascinates me, and I through my musical network, I was able to realize this guy's basically in my backyard, totally affable. I reached out to him and said, "Hey, I am a patient with hemophilia. I found your song earlier this year. It has lived in my head rent free, and I got to know how we got here." So the short answer to that is he liked the word. He just read it in a dictionary one day, liked the word, used us as a metaphor in this song. So we are more vehicle than topic at that point, and that's and I was able to tell him flat out that it was the stupidest song I've ever heard, which is both a compliment and a highlight of the absurdity of it. We both had a good laugh over it. We did.
That's an amazing. You are a courageous fellow to share such candor with a fellow musician, my friend.
Well, you establish the premise that you have affection for the piece, and then
that's fair.
That's the thing. I wouldn't say that unless I knew this person already knew it was coming at this from a place of affection. And it turned out, moreover, the song came out in 1988. So did I. So we're roughly the same age, within about 3 months of each other, and it was either hailing my arrival or warning of it. But it turns out in all of that time, in nearly 40 years, I'm the one who made contact first. I'm the first patient with hemophilia to reach out to this guy, which in its own way blew my mind. And he was worried that I was reaching out to take umbrage with the piece. Which I didn't. No, I love that it exists. I could never write a song like that. I could never. Because of my lived experience, I could never. And that's why I love it.
Yeah.
And he was gracious enough to allow me some time of his to educate him on the condition, because this insulation from a lot of what went on in the 80s while living in New York, which also blows my mind, that the HIV and AIDS situation didn't really, he was just kind of, because that would have been, I guess, our biggest public face at the time. And we're talking 1988, so it does sort of surprise me that none of that got through either. But either way, lovely man, delightful person. He enjoyed my cover of it, and I enjoyed doing it because of the absurdity of it. It was myself, my best friend Johnny Rock, and my friend Sam Bambasudo, who's also a chronic illness advocate for lupus herself. She's actually somebody, I'll go on record and say that she is one of my biggest inspirations as an advocate, if not the biggest living inspiration as an advocate. She's somebody I actively had motivation from to get as active as I've been. So we can blame Sam, and I'm sure she'll love that for this arc.
All right, Sam, it's your fault. Well, we'll give the audience now a chance to enjoy Hemophiliac of Love as well, the cover by Max Feinstein. Max, again, I'm so glad the relief that you're expressing, it resonates, it's important, and I couldn't think of a better birthday gift for you. So in real time from when this episode releases, we're a few days out. So happy birthday to you, brother.
Thanks, man. And I can only hope that this is something all of us can get our hands on in one form or another. We all deserve some kind of relief.
From your lips, as they say. All right, here it is. Hemophiliac of Love.
1, 2, 3, 4. When I drive through the great Northwest, the snow caps on the mountain top, the pack of wolves surrounds my truck, and my fingertips are so cold. All this beauty and all these wolves surround me with their eyes so blue. The mountains high, the wolves I love.